This is the portion from the treasurer candidates. Candidates who are running in the primary are Denise Yost and Eric Virkler. And Mr. Virkler won the toss, so he'll open. And then we'll follow the same format as we did with the clerks. Mr. Virkler, the floor is yours.
We're using the microphone. It's off.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight to participate in this forum. I think it's important to get to know the candidates that you'll be voting for. Thank you also to the Republican Party for organizing the event, for the media members for being here this evening. The campaign process over the last few months has been fast and furious. I have to believe all the countywide candidates, Denise, Jake, John, and I, are working harder than we would have ever imagined. I have seen them all at events, and I think we follow each other on the sidewalks as we visit people in Lewis County. I have to say, 8 to 10 months ago, I did not expect to be in this position. In the past, I had given some thought to running for county treasurer, but it really had not crossed my mind again until last fall, and early this winter when people started to ask me if I would run. With Patty O'Brien retiring, there would be a void in our county financial management, and many people suggested I might fill that void. I appreciated all those comments, and I really started to think about the run for treasurer in January. I believe I bring great qualifications to the role of county treasurer. Over the last 20 years, I've worked as chief financial officer at Lewis County General Hospital, as clerk, treasurer, and administrator for the village of Lowville, and as the county director of economic development currently. I've been responsible for or completed many of the functions and job responsibilities that come with a treasurer role. I work with auditors and attorneys on a daily basis. I file payroll reports. I understand health insurance plans. I understand accounting systems and budget preparation for multi-million-dollar organizations. And I provided information to county legislators for years. I also bring a new set of eyes to the department. Our county treasurers for the last 20 years or more have risen through the ranks in the department. That's okay, but sometimes bringing someone new in with a different viewpoint can have positive impacts. I'm confident I can bring experience to the department and work with the current staff in the treasurer's office to create a great team and continue to provide important services to our citizens. I didn't prepare any remarks about myself, so I have a few more seconds. I'm married to Heidi Van Zandt, been born and raised in Lewis County, other than 10 years living outside of the county. We came back here in 1997, and I very much enjoy living here. And part of what I enjoy about living in Lewis County is community service, and I think that's what the role of the treasurer is all about. Thank you.
Ms. Yost.
Hi, my name is Denise Yost, and I am currently a senior account clerk in the Lewis County Treasurer's Office. I'd like to thank the Republican Committee for hosting this Candidates Forum, and thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here. When the current treasurer, Patty O'Brien, announced that she was going to retire, and no one else in the office was interested in running, I thought, why let someone with no knowledge of the office come in off the street to do the job? I thought, why not me? I am capable, and I know the processes of the treasurer's office. So I decided to run, and then I convinced the Board of Legislators that the treasurer should remain an elected position instead of turning it into an appointed position. I am proud to say that I am a lifelong resident of Lewis County, and I currently reside in Lyons Falls. I attended South Lewis High School and earned 2 associate's degrees in business administration and hotel technology at Canton College. I have 2 amazing children, Amanda and Hunter, and 2 spectacular grandchildren, Wyatt and Aria. I'm very proud to say that being a single parent has taught me to be a very strong and independent woman. My faith and my family are very important to me. I have over 30 years experience in the business field, and at my last place of employment, I administered over 200 contracts and budgets for the agency. I can read and implement a contract and create and apply a budget for each contract. I worked with the top officers and department heads of the agency to ensure that they adhered to the rules of the contracts, and I also hired, trained, and supervised several clerical staff. In my current position as senior account clerk in the treasurer's office, I keep a true account of the receipts and expenditures for the cash accounts for the county. I have attended a tax auction and know the process of collecting taxes all the way through foreclosure, repurchasing, and the
10
auction.
seconds.
We process the county payroll and maintain the retirees' health insurance. When the deputy treasurer takes a day off, I am her backup for processing the income and banking for the day. I'm looking forward to becoming Lewis County's next treasurer. Thank you.
Ms. Abbass, I think you're next.
Next.
And the first question goes to Ms. Yost.
Okay. Here on. Got it. Ms. Yost, well, for both of you, you're both coming from very different perspectives, but you will both find a big change if you get elected treasurer in your power structure. Denise, you're used to being a clerk and reporting to somebody, not necessarily being in charge. And you, Mr. Virkler, are used to always being in charge. And so this is a very different position for both of you. How will each of you handle that switch in your own personal power in your job and the requirements?
Well, even though now I don't have the experience of being the treasurer and supervising the office staff, I have in the past. I was an office manager at my last job. I was promoted from taking the contracts over to being an office manager. So I have supervised several staff. I do know how to hire and fire, but I do realize that working with the county, that especially with a union, that there's always the contract that you have to follow and the union rules.
So I don't know if I've always been in charge. You can ask a few other people about that. But I think the role of treasurer, you are an elected official, so you don't really report to anyone, so you are sort of in charge. But at the same time, your role as a treasurer really is not to. You don't set policy. You don't make financial decisions for the county. So you were in a role there that is a little different, and you follow the lead of the board. And I would also say I've been in that position before. I worked as the clerk treasurer administrator for the village of Lowville, and I reported to the board. I know what that's like. I reported to the board at Lewis County General Hospital. I have been in many positions in my career and in my personal life where I enjoy working with other people, seeking their opinions, and I look forward to doing that in this new role.
I have a lot of questions for the treasurer as well. I only get to 2 of them, so I'm trying to make the best of it.
You can have the next one.
The elected treasurer's role includes advising legislators on whether the county can pull off financing or funding for particular projects, recommending the use of cash or bonds for projects, things along those lines. Will you be able to stand up to legislators when your recommendations aren't being adhered to, and if you have differing views on those types of things? Basically, as an elected treasurer, you're kind of the eyes and ears of the people's money. So, are you going to be able to stand up to the legislators and let them know when your opinion differs from theirs?
Most people that know me know that I say what I think, and I have pretty strong opinions. I always have an opinion, but I also try and state my opinion when it's appropriate. Yes, I definitely think that I will make my thoughts known, my expertise known to the legislators when it comes to decisions like that and the financial decisions that relate to the county. And I'll do that in a professional way, in a way that I hope helps them in making their decisions.
I think I will do well with working with the Board of Legislators. I'm sorry. The question was if there's a disagreement. Okay.
Basically, are you going to be able to? Do you feel comfortable stating your viewpoints as opposed to if there are disagreements with the legislators, if they want to spend cash on something that you think the county can't fund and you would prefer them to use bonds for, or if you think that the county doesn't have the money in general to pull off the project?
I'd like to be able to give them my true opinion, but most times, who knows if that's going to happen? So I don't know. I'm sorry.
Along those same lines, you could very well be asked to weigh in on budgetary matters as the county treasurer. And what do you bring to the table that gives you the competence to do that?
Well, I would know all I would have not control, but I would know about the budgeting of the agency, for the county. And I'd advise them. I'd like to make sure that they're fiscally responsible and, yeah. I'm sorry.
Can you ask the question again, Scott?
You could very well be asked to weigh in on budgetary matters in your past as treasurer. What gives you the confidence to do that? What experience do you have? What training do you bring to the table?
I've been managing budgets for various organizations, businesses, et cetera, for decades. I would almost point to the most important one, my business I shared with Heidi at Sunnycrest Flowers. Managing the budget for a small business is challenging, and you have to meet the budget. If you don't, you go out of business. Done the same thing at Lewis County General Hospital, at the Village of Lowville. Pretty confident I've been able to done in the past, and I can continue to do it in the future. That said, again, the final budget decisions are legislators, so I will advise them the best I can.
Can everyone hear us okay in the back? I'm using it now. Officials confirmed that the county does have an A+ credit rating. Now, as treasurer, what would be your duty to maintain that, and how would you maintain that?
So a couple things come to mind. Again, knowing that the treasurer doesn't make all those financial decisions and approve the budgets, but you're going to give the information that leads to that, and leads to having a strong budget, leads to decisions about bonding or not bonding, and how do we use our cash. So that's important, and I think that's a role that the treasurer provides a lot of guidance. Another thing that I think is very important in A+ financial ratings is being audited. A lot of that's based on your audit. The county's audited every year. I have dealt with auditors almost every year of my career. So having a strong audit and making sure your annual audit goes well is an important part of that also.
I agree. It's good that I would advise the Board of Legislators and make sure we're staying on budget. Try not to go over budget at all, and just help them be fiscally responsible.
As we discussed with the other office, with the last room clerks, this position is actually voluntary to be full-time or part-time, but do you see this as a full-time position? Do you see this as a part-time position? You both have full-time jobs. Denise, you'd be moving up there. Eric, you have a different one. What's your take on that? How many hours? I know that you can't be part of the benefit system unless you're full-time, but how many hours do you think you're going to dedicate to this position should you win?
Being a treasurer is a full-time position, and I'll be there 9 to 5 or 8:30 to 4:30, whatever the hours are. There's more, I'm sure, meetings that you have to go to after hours. I intend to learn every aspect of my staff's job so that I know how to do everybody's job in the entire office. And I believe that it's important to have backup for every position, and procedures, step-by-step procedures on how to do their job. And yeah, it's definitely a full-time job, and I will be there every day.
Yes, this would be my full-time job. Many people have asked me about my current job, and I would have to give that up, unfortunately, because I enjoy it very much. So this would become my full-time job, and I've always been in a position where my responsibility was to get my job done, and I would see this exact same thing as the county treasurer. As Denise said, it's an all-day, everyday job. I know Patty O'Brien puts in many hours. I would be new and learning things coming into the treasurer's office, so I would do what I need to do to learn those things and do what's required of the job.
Thank you.
As treasurer, you would oversee the county's self-funded insurance plan for employees as a plan administrator. Over 925 employees, that's including the county and the hospital, are enrolled in the plan, not including spouses or other dependents. So it's a pretty large plan. What experience do you offer in dealing with the operation of a plan of that size, and what policies would you recommend to either improve the plan or make changes to the plans?
My turn, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of aspects to that, Nick, and there's a lot of technical answers to that. But first off, it's about something we talked about earlier. It's about balancing a budget. You got to keep the fund healthy and balance the budget of the fund. I've worked with health insurance for years. You know, when you're at the Lewis County General Hospital, you learn health insurance, so I know quite a bit about it. It's really about making hard decisions. The county's made some hard decisions and some changes with the health insurance plan over the last few years to ensure that it was financially solvent. So you have to provide information to the legislators to help them make those hard decisions. And I'm not sure exactly what the treasurer's responsibility is in those decisions, but it's an important role, and provide good information. And I mean, the health insurance plan at the county and the hospital, it's again, if there's more changes, there's more changes in the future. Help to guide those changes.
So I do know that with our health plan, that there is a team of people that sit around and make the decisions. It's not just the treasurer, although the treasurer will advise, and that's pretty much the role of the treasurer in anything she does, is advising the legislators. I know with the fund balance, we also get a lot of input from the Excelis, our carrier. They give us a lot of information so that we can make the informed decisions, and I know that we continue to increase the cost of the insurances for each employee and retiree. So eventually, I'm hoping that we can stop doing that and come to an even ground, and so that health insurance can be affordable for everybody.
What's being done right in the treasurer's office now, and what needs to change?
What's being done right in the treasurer's office? I think that the staff that we have there are great staff. They do their job perfect. Some things that I'd like to see changed is I'd like to work with the legislators and the town tax collectors to implement a system to make it easier for the taxpayers to pay their bills. I'm not sure. I'm even maybe considering something about partial payments for them. A lot of taxpayers come in the office and say, "Can I make a partial payment?" And our policy is right now, no, we can't accept them. But I think if it's going to help the taxpayers, I think that should be a discussion to be had.
My first thought is I'm going to echo something I think John said earlier. I don't come into this position with any agendas. I don't have a great knowledge of how things exactly work today and what's right or what's wrong. So I don't think I'm going to specifically speak to that. I would talk about customer service as one point. I heard Patty O'Brien say something not too long ago that in her years, which are many, the treasurer's office has never been closed. So that's an important thing that's very right, and we need to keep it that way. But I would come in and learn from the staff and see what is going on, what are there things that could be changed. I'm not afraid to change, so we'll work together and make any changes that need to be changed. And I think something Denise said makes sense too. If there's opportunities to work with our towns and villages, I believe in that very strongly, and things that we can do to make it better for our taxpayers and better for our towns and villages.
Our area in Lewis County specifically is home to several wind projects, as many of us are aware. So those payments in lieu of taxes, you may be familiar with the term pilot. They make up an unusually large portion of the county's budget. So as treasurer, how would you manage these payments, and how do you think pilot funds should be spent by the county?
I have some strong opinions on that.
Careful.
One thought, Mike. And I work with that every day, not managing those funds for an organization, but I have a lot of thoughts on it. And again, the treasurer doesn't really get involved in making those decisions, so the role would be to kind of guide legislators or maybe be involved in some discussion with the other taxing jurisdictions that are affected. You know, first thought, a treasurer and accountants, you have to be conservative in your budgeting. So if you've got this money from wind pilots, you don't plan on it first until you know you're going to get it, and then when you do have it, you want to use it in a wise manner. I would be the type to use those funds for on not day-to-day operations, for capital projects, for things that might benefit the community, improve the community. So that's the tack that the direction I would take, and the way I would try to help guide the legislators.
With the wind project, I believe, well, like Eric said, the treasurer doesn't make a lot of decisions. They advise the legislators. But with that wind project, I believe the pilot it's diminishing. Like, we're gonna stop getting the funds from that in the future. So it's not always gonna be, the money's not always gonna be there. I do know that with the solar that we have installed, that's another additional savings that we're getting. So there's that too. So.
With regard to, okay. With regard to managing staff and working interdepartmentally, so everybody comes to you when it's budget time. It's a little mayhem, I think, as you probably know, and Eric, you've seen from the other side of things. How do you manage that many moving parts? How do you do when there's a lot of pressure, there is a time constraint going on, and every legislator is looking for every little mistake you maybe make or not? How do you do under that kind of pressure?
I think that I'd like to set up individual meetings with each department and meet with them to see what they'd like to have in their budget. I haven't been involved in the budget process, but I believe there is a lot of meetings that Patty goes to, and I'd attend those and listen and again advise the legislators on what I think would be fiscally responsible of them.
Thank you.
I kind of take that question as how do you handle pressure, and also how do you work with departments. I think I handle pressure pretty well, but you could ask certain people in the room, I'm sure they might tell you different. Sometimes I just go for a run if I need to relieve a little stress. But I've been dealing with pressure like that for years, find a way to manage it. I think the question of departments, again, is something we've been talking about a lot. Your role really is guidance. The departments are responsible for their own budget, so you help them, you guide them, you answer their questions, and educate them, and do the best you can to make sure that their individual departments and all the county departments are coming up with a good budget. So I'd be comfortable balancing that and juggling that, and enjoy working with the departments.
Also a budget question. Sat down with Patty the other day to kind of get some insight into her day-to-day activities and a better understanding of what the treasurer position actually entails. I was kind of surprised to hear Patty say that she figured 50% of her time during the year was involved in the budget, either putting together the budget, doing follow-ups on the budget afterward, things like that. As treasurer, you're not only overseeing the county's portion of the budget, but even though the hospital does have its own CFO, you're actually in charge of the hospital's budget too. So $150 million a year combined. With the state legislator making the 2% property tax permanent now, revenues are challenging. So what do you bring to the table when it comes to budgeting time to put together a good budget and being able to stay within that 2% property cap without being a penalty to the taxpayers?
I think there might be a lot of different questions in there, Nick, but I've dealt with that type of budgeting in multiple departments before. At the Village of Lowville, it was maybe 5 or 6 departments, but at Lewis County General Hospital, I managed 20, 25 departments, so I think it would be very similar. And again, the knowledge that both of those entities combined for the entire county budget. And again, I think your role is guiding the legislators and making sure they're making good decisions on the budget. And I think, as you said, a lot of the day of the treasurer is probably based on the budget and helping legislators and helping departments manage their budget. You know, one other point you made, I think, you know, about the tax cap and revenue. You know, in my world today, how do we bring more revenue into Lewis County? And that's something that we always have to keep thinking about. And hopefully as treasurer, I could be involved in some of those discussions too. We have to grow the revenue in Lewis County every way we can.
You're right on the budget being a very important part of the treasurer's position. I do a lot of journal entries to make sure the budget is in balance. We're moving money from one account to the next all the time, and I have never sat down for the county and done a budget with that, but I'm really looking forward to doing that. I'm really excited about working with the county directors, and I'd like to just, yeah.
At this point, we'll wrap up the questions, and Denise, you have the floor for the first minute.
Okay. A while back in my career, I worked as a senior secretary for a construction manager from the Rochester area. We built the airport at Fort Drum. When the job was finished, they wanted me to move to Rochester to continue to work for them. To convince me to go, they sent me to Rochester for a week to set up the new site office with all expenses paid. As good as that offer sounded, I had to decline because I'm a country girl and I could not leave Lewis County. My heart and home is and always will be in Lewis County. I want to serve the people of Lewis County by becoming the next treasurer. The only way that will happen is if you get out and vote in the primary. This year, on June 25th, it's on June 25th instead of in September. You may think that your vote doesn't count, but your vote will make a difference in the county election. Your vote on June 25th would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for giving me the time to tell you about myself, and I hope everyone has a great evening and good night.
Mr. Virkler.
Thank you all again for being here. I hope this conversation has demonstrated that I'm well qualified to serve as Lewis County Treasurer. I've worked with boards providing financial information for over 20 years, and I make key decisions for my organization every day. I work with people in many aspects of county, state, and local government, as well as our businesses and community organizations in Lewis County. I'm excited to have the opportunity to follow in the footsteps of Patty O'Brien and work with the staff in the Treasurer's Department, as well as the county manager and our department heads. I'm very comfortable with this type of role and believe I am the best choice for Lewis County Treasurer. I would like to thank Denise for participating in this forum, all of you for coming tonight, and I wish all of our candidates good luck in the primary in 2 weeks.